I heard from older athletes that they were going so deep in a race that they actually experienced strange and new states of consciousness. And later, I experienced these stages myself, these states of consciousness. But with athletes, it's not talked about much in television interviews because in these television interviews, usually people think it's a little bit too strange for interviews on television, or it might seem unbelievable. But now that I'm not an athlete anymore and I'm a professional biohacking coach, I was hoping that I could sort of more talk openly about these topics. And however, I recently appeared on national television, and the series about biohacking, actually tomorrow is the last episode. Yes, because they're going to take it off the air. Yes, they're going to take it off the air. So it seems biohacking is still too controversial for national television. So mentioning something as simple as magnesium on television led to a strong reaction from the medical and the scientific community in the Netherlands. And yeah, they basically say that it's nonsense. They don't believe it. So we still have a long way to go as biohackers, is my opinion. But if you're only talking with biohackers about biohacking, you will never expand your knowledge. And that's what I did. I went out there and I talked to hundreds of thousands of people on television, and they're non-believers. And I got appreciated for it, but also I got totally roasted. And that was especially a difficult time for me. And so I'm happy to be back here with my lovely biohacker friends. And yeah, I was hoping this is sort of my comfort zone. So I feel more open to discuss this sort of controversial topic that I had in mind. And because I'm going to reveal to you what I think is going to be the most performance enhancing practice in the coming years. And it will most likely be banned in sports, but you all can still use it. All right. I recently came across this quote, and it's by William James, the Harvard psychologist and founder of Western psychology. And he already stated in the 1800s that the human individual lives usually far within its limits. And he possesses powers of various sorts which he habitually fails to use. So we've developed a habit of underperforming. And you know, habits are behaviors that are ingrained in the brain, and they form through repetition and neuroplasticity, and they behave like well-trodden elephant paths. And you all know this comparison. But human beings therefore find it very, very difficult to change their habits. And over time, we might accept our daily performance level as the person who we are. So we may continue at this level for months or even for years or our whole life. But even knowing that deep down inside, we can do much better. And this might be too painful to actually admit. And some of you might start making excuses like, oh, I'm not a leader, or my metabolism is slow, or I'm too old for this, or I'm too busy to change, or biohacking is nonsense. So you're actually saying I'm an underperformer. And even the best athletes in the world, they face this challenge because they face it at a different level of the game. And the Olympic motto, Citius, Altius, Fortius, it's faster, higher, stronger. It reflects their constant quest to surpass themselves, and they make it their mission to, continuously elevate their daily performance level. So how often haven't you faced a problem in your life that you just couldn't get your head around? But often when you took a break and you took a step back and you saw it from a different perspective, then all of a sudden the solution came to your consciousness and it seemed so clear. Well, imagine how many problems in your life could be solved if you could rise up above yourself more frequently, if you could break your routines more often and go into upgrading yourself in a better version of yourself. And I will explain to you how athletes are doing this. And I'll give it to you in 3 steps, and I'll give you the secret ingredient. All right. So, step 1 is get ready. So, winning a race or breaking a record can actually be seen as solving a problem. And the problem in this case would be, I can't be faster than I was before. And Einstein said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness as it was created. So the problem in this case, if the race is, you think that you believe that you can't be faster than you were before. So I would say I've lost medals because I wasn't ready to believe that I'm faster than my competitors, usually the Germans. And I was blaming them, but it's actually believing this problem. So if I would ask Einstein to solve this problem, he would probably say something like, you have to go inward and see and tap into qualities that you thought you didn't possess before. So you don't yet know who this better version of you is. You haven't met him, or otherwise you would have already know how to become them. And you would have already done it. But literally, rising up above yourself can feel like a different state of consciousness. You're not yourself, you're someone else. You're a better version of yourself. So to solve this problem of breaking a record or winning a race or beating a formidable opponent, you actually need to reach a higher level of consciousness. In this higher level of consciousness, throughout the years, athletes and at various levels of all the sports, they have come up with millions of tricks and millions of hacks to actually get there and get to that different zone. So sometimes these rituals, they might seem ridiculous to you, but they use it and they have an effect from them. But they keep doing them almost as if it is a ritual. So here we see Rafael Nadal. So why is it that athletes always wear this distinctive clothing or use specific foods or carry a stuffed animal or they chant a mantra and they touch the ground before they enter the field? Or they meticulously arrange their bottles like Rafael Nadal? Is this superstition or does it actually serve a purpose? That's a question. So let's take the Olympics. And the Olympics is the biggest sports event globally. And when I went there, I saw that this is a prime example. This is a prime example of a series of rituals. And there's an opening ceremony with dance and music, and even they're lighting a big fire. And all the athletes are participating in this ritual, and this ritual is carefully orchestrated. So billions of people are actually watching this, and you can feel their eyes watching you, and you all of a sudden sense that this moment is a very, very special moment, and that this moment is actually very important, and it has immense meaning for you. So you can feel that it's just not any moment. And the huge buildup of all these rituals, of all these moments, they cause a higher level of noradrenaline in the brain. And this noradrenaline in the brain, it activates a certain part of the brain that's called the salience network. And this salience network is a network that prioritizes things that you experience in an order of importance. So the brain starts to realize that this is a very important moment and that there is immense meaning in this moment. So it basically says, pay very good attention. And at that moment, a whole cocktail of neurotransmitters is released, like dopamine and serotonin, and the endorphins are released into the bloodstream. And research shows that this cocktail of neurotransmitters, this cocktail of neurochemical substances, is compelling the brain of the athlete to pay very much attention to the now, to be very alert in the here and now. Therefore, it enhances focus. And this dopamine, it triggers motivation. It triggers motivation to perform at your absolute maximum. And it also increases memory retention, and it immediately writes down this moment into your long-term memory so that you can recall it very quickly, and in your next race and competition you have this information at hand. And that's of course very, very interesting for an athlete. So it actually does serve a purpose, and not only in these huge events like the Olympics, but also in these small events like Rafael Nadal is rearranging his bottles. They also have the same effect on the brain. But there's another thing that's really interesting. So that I want to focus on more, because this neurochemical cocktail, it focuses you here and now. And it seems that it actually draws you more into flow. And that's step 2. And a wave of performance. So we all know that the now is the moment, and the moment, only moment, where flow can happen. And in flow, there's increased focus, there's pain suppression, there's more creativity, and lots of other things happen. There, time slows down, it behaves strangely, or it speeds up. It's very, very strange sensation. And you can't be in the flow while thinking about your taxes tomorrow. So you have to be in the now. And this flow state has tremendous performance enhancing benefits. So these rituals, they bring you into the moment. And that's where flow can happen. But however, you can't control flow. Unfortunately, you can't. Otherwise, we would have been in flow the whole day, because it's a wonderful state to be in. But trying to force flow is counterproductive. And athletes know this. You can't also control the wind while you're sailing. It's just not going to happen. So you can't control flow, it controls you. And athletes know that trying too hard to get into flow is futile, because it emerges. It emerges when you immerse yourself in the task at hand. So why then is it so challenging to let go of control? And why is it so challenging? Well, it's because going into the flow means going into the unknown. And we're afraid of the unknown. So it might hurt, we might look foolish, or we might look ridiculous, or the worst of all, we might fail. So for step 2, wouldn't it be nice if it would be a little bit more easy to get into flow? Like taking a pill or having a drink. That would be nice, right? So you're going to help me, audience. Yes? Which ritual do you enjoy every morning with your coworkers to get you into the zone of working? Yeah, here, coffee. That's right. Coffee is a mind-altering chemical that gives you motivation and focus. So, another question. Throughout the years, throughout thousands of years in history, human history, what have humans used at parties and ceremonies to let go of control more easily? Yeah, alcohol and drugs. Yes, drugs. Okay, so let's consider psilocybin in this case. It's the active component of magic mushrooms. Of course, everybody knows this. But in high doses, it can induce a loss of control over your psyche and over your bodily functions. But this can lead to pleasant experiences, but it can also lead to sort of unpleasant experiences. And these states usually come up when you try to resist the experience. And it starts then to become and feel more like a bad trip. But in small doses, these so-called microdoses, just enough tryptamine molecules are released and attached to the receptors of serotonin in your brain. And there's just enough not to lose control over your body, but just enough to not be afraid of losing control. So it reduces negativity and it reduces the fear of consequences. So let's say we're going to introduce a hypothetical athlete. So what if this hypothetical athlete would take a microdose before a crucial and important sporting event? And just enough that he still has control over his body, but his mind is less afraid to lose control. And please note that psilocybin is not banned by any professional sports federation in the world. So if an athlete would take it, and especially here in the Netherlands where it's legal, then he or she would not be breaking any rules. It would be completely following the rules, right? That makes sense, right? Okay. So this athlete took just enough to not lose control, but lose the fear of control. What if he would use it in combination with the power of rituals, which we've just seen that they can focus your attention into the here and the now, and it draws you here into the now. So it's very possible that microdosing, in fact, I possibly know very, very sure that it's very, very effective, that microdosing in this way allows an athlete, this hypothetical athlete, of course, quite predictably, time and time again, to reach these flow states and to actually use it as a flow trigger. And a microdose in this way, it can expand your consciousness just enough so that you can break a pattern, that you can break a habit or this plateau, or just enough to get this small advantage or to solve this problem, right? And so you can receive in that moment what you want. And what you want is a meeting with this new, stronger, smarter version of yourself. And as I said, I'm quite sure that this is the way that it works. But there is more to it. Because rituals like this, with or without psilocybin, they can have profound effects. And they can expand your consciousness. But new rituals can create this new identity for you. And this is the identity that you couldn't see before. And the person that you meet during this new ritual is your new self. And your new self maybe doesn't struggle with health or relationships or with work. And you went out there and you expanded. So now that you see that you can do this and that you actually know how to do it, you can do it more often. And in that seeing that new self that you've met there, you see that your problems are more manageable. So maybe part of the old self is not necessary anymore and you have to sort of let it go. And that may be painful because you have to say goodbye to the good moments with your old self. So give yourself time to recover from that. Like integrating this new you takes time and energy. And just like recovering after a long period of training, and it's been a long, intense experience for you, you have to relax and not stress yourself any more than necessary. So even the best athletes in the world do this, and they know that this is important. Yeah? I remember Michael Phelps. So if you're experiencing a very challenging problem, I want to give you the advice that my teacher gave me. And that is when you encounter a problem you can't overcome, you need to expand your consciousness. So for the people who watch the biohacking show, Are there any in the audience that have seen the biohacking show? Yeah, good. I want to end how every episode begins now, and that is with a disclaimer. Thank you very much.